Snow fell quietly over the sleepy farming town. Shops closed early, families huddled by their radios, and the world outside felt still, almost frozen in time. But that peace was about to be shattered. Inside a creaking farmhouse on the edge of town, police would uncover something so grotesque, so unimaginable, that it would scar the American psyche forever. Bowls carved from human skulls. Chairs upholstered with human skin. Masks sewn from real faces. And at the center of it all was one man. A quiet, timid handyman that most neighbors thought was harmless. His name was Ed Gein. Edward Theodore Gein was born in 1906. His childhood was anything but normal. His father, George, was a violent alcoholic who drifted from job to job. His mother, Augusta, ruled the household with an iron fist. She was a religious zealot who preached hellfire and sin. She told Ed and his brother Henry that women, all women, were wicked, dangerous, and destined for damnation. Ed grew up in near total isolation. Other kids played ball in the streets. Ed was at home, reciting Bible verses and absorbing his mother's twisted lessons about morality. From the very beginning, he was different. Shy, socially awkward, unable to make friends. But he adored his mother. To Ed, she was not just a parent, she was his whole world. When Augusta died in 1945, something inside Ed broke. He boarded up her bedroom and living areas, preserving them like a shrine. The rest of the house? It decayed into filth, littered with newspapers, junk, and eventually, far darker things. Alone in that farmhouse, Ed slipped into fantasies of death, corpses, and the impossible desire to bring his mother back. Plainfield was small, and everyone knew Ed. He worked as a handyman, did odd jobs, and even babysat for neighbors. People thought he was strange, yes, but harmless. He giggled at odd moments. He stared too long. He spoke in a flat, almost childlike tone. But who would ever suspect him of anything truly sinister? When locals asked why he never dated, he had no answer. Truth was, Ed couldn't connect with women. Instead, he turned to pulp horror magazines, medical books, and dark fantasies that began to consume him. At night, he would drive to the cemetery. The moon his only witness, Ed dug up freshly buried bodies of women who resembled Augusta. He brought them home, skinned them, and began crafting grotesque objects from their remains. Over the years, Ed's farmhouse transformed into something out of a nightmare. Police would later describe it as a house of horrors. Skulls mounted on bedposts. A lampshade stitched from human skin. A belt made of nipples. A box filled with noses. Masks, carefully peeled from the faces of the dead, hanging on the walls like trophies. But Ed wasn't just collecting souvenirs. He had a goal. He wanted to make a woman's suit, something he could wear, something that would let him become his mother again. Grave robbing wasn't enough. Ed escalated. In 1954, tavern owner Mary Hogan vanished without a trace. Her bar closed with the cash still on the counter. Locals joked she must have run away. But in Ed's house, her face was later found preserved like a mask. On November 16, 1957, hardware store owner Bernice Wardens disappeared. Blood was found on the store floor. A receipt showed the last customer that morning, Ed Gein. That night, police went to Ed's farmhouse. What they found would haunt them forever. Deputies entered the shed first. The cold air hung heavy with the metallic smell of blood. And there, hanging upside down, gutted like a deer, was Bernice Wardens. Inside the house, the horror multiplied. Every room was filled with human remains turned into household objects. The masks, the bones, the chairs. One officer later said, "It was like stepping into hell itself." Ed was arrested without a fight. In fact, he seemed almost relieved. During questioning, he spoke in a flat, childlike voice, calmly describing his nightly trips to cemeteries and his plans to make a woman's suit. He admitted to killing Mary Hogan and Bernice Wardens, but insisted that most of what police found came from graves. What chilled investigators most wasn't just what he had done, it was how casually he spoke about it. Like he was talking about fixing a tractor or making supper. The nation was horrified. Newspapers called him a ghoul, a madman, and the butcher of Plainfield. But legally, Ed was a complicated case. In 1958, He was declared insane and committed to Central State Hospital. 10 years later, after treatment, he was finally tried for Bernice Warden's murder. The verdict: guilty, but still legally insane. He spent the rest of his life in psychiatric institutions. By staff accounts, he was quiet, polite, even helpful. Ed Gein died in 1984 at age 77. The Gein farmhouse was burned to the ground in 1958, likely arson. Locals didn't want a monument to his crimes. His grave in Plainfield Cemetery became a magnet for dark tourists until his headstone was stolen. But Ed's legacy spread far beyond Wisconsin. His crimes inspired some of the most infamous characters in horror. Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Hollywood turned his grotesque reality into terrifying fiction. Ed Gein wasn't a typical serial killer. He killed only 2 women, but the depravity of his acts burned his name into history. He was a man trapped in childhood, smothered by his mother, unable to move on after her death. His crimes were not about lust or rage, but about an impossible, twisted desire to bring her back. Behind the shy smile and nervous laugh was a darkness no one in Plainfield ever imagined. And when police opened the doors of that farmhouse, they didn't just expose Ed Gein's secrets, they forced America to confront the unimaginable depths of human obsession.